Yo.
That is up.
Man, if I was red-green colorblind, I'd think your jacket matches your hair today.
Yeah.
What's going on, man? Happy Thursday yet again.
Yeah.
Feels like they just kind of keep coming at us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just thinking about this, actually, and this is a little bit out of left field. Thought it might be fun to kind of talk about some of the trends of what we have seen in the second half versus the first half, which, by the way, for those of you that are just joining in, welcome to yet another week of the Mike Medlin recap show with, of course, the channel host, all-around smart guy, Luke, and then, of course, myself. I was able to draft Luke to my team this year for the Scratch League, so that has been a lot of fun to kind of have that second set of eyes to sanity check off of. And I mean, bowling's more fun when you do it with friends. Let's be real. It's more fun if you're doing it with friends and you're winning, but but I mean, it's even though it has been a little bit of a tougher second half for us, we're still in a decent spot, and I mean, we're less than a week out of the lead, even with that. So I mean, there's still a lot of ground we can make up. Time is starting to run out a little bit. We've got 8 weeks left, if my math is correct, in the second half. So time is definitely coming to an end. But yeah, I guess, do you want to talk a little bit about the bowling from last Thursday? You want to kind of talk standings a little bit? What do you think?
Doesn't matter.
Either or. All right. So let me grab this real quick. I don't really have a better way to do this. So this is the end standings from the first half. And I think, at least, obviously, that part is kind of cool. Us winning was kind of a lot of fun. But, I mean, really, I didn't really, and I don't know if this is just my kind of inherent optimism about things like this, but I was almost feeling in my head looking at this of like, the strong teams are gonna stay strong, and some of the teams that really had a pretty tough first half are just gonna get better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess this is the first time I've really paid attention to it to this level, but at least for me, and I think this would be kind of an interesting contrast to kind of hear your thoughts, since this is what, your 6th or 7th year in the league or something like that, is kind of how this is played out in terms of how things shuffled around versus what you've seen in past years. I expected Yuri's team, Zach. I mean, pretty much everybody in the bottom 8, bottom 7 teams. I was like, okay, they're going to be a lot tougher second half. It's kind of what I expected. So I don't know. I guess kind of you've kind of been around this league, especially. I feel like has a little bit of a different dynamic than most. And so I wonder kind of what your thoughts were / what you expected with this.
Yeah, it's kind of rare for one team to. I mean, there have been some years where better teams were just identical. I think it was like Trevor's team last year. There's some years you get to the end of the draft and you're like, how did this team happen?
Yeah. I think that happened with Russ's team a little bit last year. No? Or was that last year or 2 years ago where he had Hirschman?
Yeah, Russ had a pretty good team one year. And most of the time that happens, that's when the middle captain. So like you have the first 4 or 5 captains normally take the highest average on the board, the best bowler that they can get, and they'll figure out the rest of it.
Yeah.
But then after that, you start having everybody saying, well, I don't want to pay 220 for a 220 average. I want to look down maybe a little bit and see, because the big value goes off the board early because it's just, the 225s, 230s that are going to average that, and you just need that.
Yeah.
And so whatever you have to pay for it is whatever.
Which is why, like, I went number 1 last year. Tyler went number 1 this year. Stuff like that.
Yeah. So you just take what you can get the first couple picks.
Yeah.
And then the next 10-ish captains kind of look at it and say, well, again, I don't want to pay 220 for a 220 average. I want to look down and see if I can get a 210 or a 215 that's going to be a 220 average. And
kind of what I did this year.
and then try to do the same thing again in this. That will set them up for a good position in the second round to hopefully try and do the same thing again. If you can find a couple 215s that are going to be 220, 225, then you're going to be set. The problem is that rarely happens. It'll happen with one bowler, but getting more than that is
it's tough to get that right. Multiple picks in the same draft because you're looking for like drafting someone as close to their floor as you can, and just kind of hope that your assessment of their capabilities is correct and that they will not be at their floor 2 years in a row.
Yeah. So sometimes that's what happens. And if you get to you're the high average and there's somebody on the board that's still at like 223 or something, and you know that is their median or close to their ceiling, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you've gone 18 picks. I mean, you get 17 picks in, and there's still somebody in the 220s on the board. You take them,
smash,
and then all you have to do is find another. So there's your 3 bowler. Then all you have to do is find one more good value, and then your last pick just has to not average 170.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, I guess
because there was
that's a good point about draft strategy.
The 1 year that my team just ran the league, again, I got Tennyson for 212, and I got Alex Jimenez for like 207.
That's hilarious.
So I mean, you can do the math yourself.
It was kind of a somewhat similar situation to what I ended up with you and Jaden on the team this year. Is combined draft cost for both of you, I think, was $415 off the top of my head. And at this point in the year, you're combined like low 440s.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a fun ride. So yeah, I guess it's definitely been a little more kind of churn than I thought there would be in the kind of the middle of the standings this year. Obviously, we had a much slower start to the season, so we're kind of in the middle of that instead of just watching it from the outside. So that might be kind of part of the perspective. But I don't know. It's just been kind of interesting to think about kind of the overall metagame and kind of how the league has progressed. Makes sense. So definitely, it'll definitely be a kind of interesting time to look back and do some kind of statistical diving into what actually happened. Even looking at like overall ranges and week by week stuff like that. I do tend to enjoy, obviously, because statistical nerd. But yeah, I guess enough about that. Let's talk some bowling. And I think first off, let's talk about Rob's team because they had a fun time.
Yeah.
So remember back in, I think it was week 8 or week 9, we had shot 28.88, and that stood as the team high series for the season until 3 weeks ago when Stephen Keeler's team shot 29.21, and that lasted for 2 weeks because Rob's team went absolutely just peanut butter and banana milkshake on Jay's team. I turned, what was that, 2054 after 2, and then they didn't even get to 900 and still set the team series record, which if I was a betting man, I think that holds for the last 8 weeks, realistically, unless something absolutely insane happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, Rob went 270, 270. Warren went like 250, 300. Caitlin was at like 500, and Jared, I think, was at like 450, 460 after 2. So they were like, they were just on a different level than everybody else last week, which was pretty fun to watch. And Warren ended up actually shooting 800. There were 2 800s actually last week. It was Warren shot like 811, 812, and then Josh King on Jesse's team shot his first 800. So that's pretty cool to see. So, but yeah, I guess moving over to talk about us. Weird night, man. Really weird night. 25-75 tie on total pins, which I believe is the first time we've tied on total pinfall for the year. Unfortunately, that means we did lose the match 14-18. So, very, very, very close match. It felt like one of those things where, I mean, there's so many places any of us could have found a pin. I split twice, game 3. You had a couple bad breaks.
Yeah, the first game was self-inflicted because something was off and I had a slow start and then I missed a 7-pin, or I missed 2 really dumb spares. I missed a 6-pin and a 10-pin somehow, and then the last game I just got screwed several times.
Yeah, and then the right side, which I kind of, as soon as I saw who we were bowling, I think I expected that drop off on both sides for game 3, or on our team and their team on the right side for game 3, because Matt curves it. I've been curving it a lot more. Hunter is a slower speed 2-hander who literally cannot look right at 15 in Royal Crest without going Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Tyler, thank goodness, was absent. I'm pretty sure he curves it too.
Yeah.
And Danny curves it. So it's like, I mean, I missed twice in the first 2 games, and they were both my fault. And then I shoot 190 with 2 splits that were both my fault. So I'm backing into 750 doesn't feel quite as good, but I mean, at the same time, I knew that game 3 was going to be really tough this week.
Yeah,
on the right side. So I was more just like, okay, I was in command and control and pretty comfortable with my ball reaction all night, and it was just execution stuff that I can very easily fix next week. So for myself, it was that's probably the happiest I've been about backing into 750 in a long time, to be honest with you. Yeah, a bunch of unfortunate breaks. I think you 6-8 twice in game 3. If I remember
twice,
right? Or 2 or 3 times.
I had some other split that was in there too. I think I was clean on my makeables the last game, but the problem is I didn't have a whole lot of makeables the last game.
Yeah, everything you shot had a circle around it, and that is not a very good time. So, and then obviously
I won't complain about that stuff very often, but I did get hosed that last game.
When you're getting stabbed in the stomach 3 times in one game, that's just kind of like, okay, can we stop now?
Yeah, because it was bad enough in game 2 because that was a really well thrown game. I think I wrapped a couple 7-pins, which I picked up, and then I had like a 6-pin or something, or a drive by 8 or something. So I was in the pocket throwing mostly decent shots the whole game, and I got done, and I'm like, well, that was a hell of a lot of work for 230.
Yeah,
and then. So yeah, it was just the first game was 100% my fault. That was I was lucky to shoot 200.
Yeah.
But the last couple games I bowled pretty good and just underscored. But
yeah,
that happens. So
that's not always a fun thing, but it is kind of
it helps
the nature of the game sometimes.
Yeah, and it's one of those things you can say, well, okay, well, I threw it better and I scored, but then the wheels start turning. It's like, well, was I really throwing it that good then if the pins weren't going down? And sometimes it's just there's just little minor matchup things that sometimes it's just not your night. I mean, there's some, again, EJ last year, win, almost last, win, almost last, win. Yeah. So, I mean, if it happens to the pros,
if it happens to them, it can happen to anybody. Yeah, that's a good perspective. Yeah, I like that.
There's only so many things that you can do inside of 3 games. And I mean, if the pros bowl, 6-8 game blocks, several of them. And so if that many bad things can happen in 18 to 20, 25, 30 games, then things can go wrong in 3 games. And so you just throw it out the window. And
that's where you just kind of have to take a step back mentally for a second and be like, all right, it's a marathon of sprints. That sprint was not very fun, but we got a lot more to go. So let's kind of move on to the next one.
Well, and especially I had a couple just what the hells that I it's like, okay, well, that was just a terrible shot for no reason.
Yeah.
But I threw it mostly decent.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, thinking about, because I remember a couple of those shots where it's just like a huge, just giant whoopsie doozle.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure you came back and freaking labeled the next shot right after that.
Well, yeah, there was a couple of them where I just threw, well, and in the first game, it was a little rocky starting off, and I missed the couple spares, and then I just labeled 3 in a row, and actually the shot before, the shot in the ninth frame was just perfect. I couldn't have thrown that any better, and then just grabbed the piss out of the 2 in the 10th when I was just looking at it again. I'm looking at our team game, because it was really close. And I'm like, well, all I need to do is, if I can just put a strike in the 10th frame on the strike in the 9th frame, I couldn't do that. And then I screwed up even worse the next shot. So
yeah, I'm blaming Danny for that game anyways. It's not your fault. It's Danny's fault.
Yeah.
So that, Danny and I were both I was on a double, I think, and Danny was working on a strike going into the 10th. And with how the math worked out, we were down by 11 with Danny and I both stole the ball. And so if you think about, I'm on a double, he's on a strike. That means if we both strike out,
we lose.
They win by a pin. We both struck out, and Danny finished first, and I was mad. Like it not actually mad, but like Danny's not getting a Christmas card this year.
Yeah.
So,
well, see, those are the things too, and we can look at all kinds of stuff across the board. But all I have to do is pick up a 10, and this is what happens if I do something kind of marginal, and then I try to fix it on the spare. I'm like, well, I'm throwing it a 10 pin. This will be, and I try to fix it, and then I screw it up again, and it's like, okay, so if I pick up a 10 pin there, we win the first game. That's 4 points, and then so that's 6 points right there. But you can keep looking at it too. It's like, we shot 750 the last game. You're telling me we couldn't find a single pin there somewhere?
Oh yeah, no, there was
any of us. So I mean, you can point the finger at whoever you want to point it at. And I think everybody will point it at themselves for some shot, some decision, some whatever else, something.
I mean, I threw an atrocious shot in the 3rd frame, the 10 pin. Sorry, I didn't shoot 300.
Yeah.
The tongue in cheek. That was one of those, like, I could have easily actually shot 300 game 1. My ball reaction was that good, and I just threw a terrible shot. And I think it was the 3rd or 4th frame, and wrapped a 10 that I knew was a 10 pin before the ball was at the arrows. So
yeah.
But these things happen, and you just got to kind of, just a marathon of sprints, and I think there are positives to kind of take from all of us. This was our last day with Matthew, actually.
Okay.
Ottawa left this morning for a big collegiate tournament down in Texas.
Okay, so we're gonna have Jaden's average tonight, and then
that is correct. We're gonna have Jaden's average tonight, and then she is back next week.
Okay,
so that'll be fun to have her back on the roster to finish out the rest of the year. And then I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't sure what the answer was for Noah. I felt like he bowled really well and just had he was on a razor edge game 3. I knew, that's a 211 opening with turning 446 and like making everything he shot at. Like, you can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah.
And then game 3 got him. And I mean, the only Alex shot 244, which I have no idea how he did that, and Matt shot 215.
Mm-hmm.
Every other righty was basically par or lower on the pair.
Yeah.
I mean, Noah 160, me 190 after turning 558. Hunter shot 160. Danny limped in at 201.
Yeah,
exactly. Is that pair, the right side just got so ugly game 3, which again, knew that was going to happen. It is what it is. So jumping over, is this the right sheet? No, it is not. There we go. This is after this week for standings. So I think we pretty much we fell 1 spot because we were in 8th going into this week, and now we are in 9th. But I mean, it's still, I was looking at and talking to Luke before he came on the airs. We're at half a week's worth of points out of 5th. We're a week's worth of points out of the lead. So there's still, Storm Dog with the cone.
Mm-hmm.
Cone Dog. Cone Dingus.
Talk about Harvey.
Bork. So I mean, there's still there's a lot of season left, but also not at the same time. We've got 8 weeks left in the half, so it's just kind of plunk away, and do what we can, and kind of see how the chips fall. More or less is kind of my approach at this point.
Yeah, it's basically one of those things. We need to get 20 for the next 5 weeks, probably. Over the next 5 weeks, we need to get 100 points.
Yeah.
Somehow, because we have Russ and Trevor, and we got Crouch at the end of the year too. So
yeah, let me take a look at the schedule. So we've got Crouch, Zach, Trevor, Russ, the last 4.
Yeah.
So in these next 4, we've got Bo, Trent, Jay, and Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
So yeah, these next. I don't know if we can get. If we can get 120 out of the next 6, I'll be feeling really good. But I also know that's going to be a pretty tough out because Trent's team has been really, really solid this year.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get 25 a couple of these weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Which, yeah, poor Storm Dog. It's definitely doable, but I mean, realistically, I also know that when we were getting 25 every week in the first half, we were definitely all basically functionally as a team, we were firing at our ceiling. And so that's basically asking us to be a ceiling team again for 5 weeks in a row, which one of those you and I are both not going to be there because we're going to Pennsylvania in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that is that's the night we bowl Jay's team that we're going to miss that.
Yeah. And
so, which
I think we just take our averages that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. But against that team, it feels like just kind of take our averages and take it how it falls. Hi, Storm.
Okay.
Luke, I figured out the problem with Storm. Mm-hmm. He's starved for attention. You guys never give him any love and affection whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh, what a goof. Yeah, I think we kind of saw this coming a little bit, maybe not to this extent, but I mean, Steve Keeler's team has been absolutely crushing this half. Mm-hmm. So good to kind of see them make a comeback and be up top of the standings. They've been leading for several weeks now, so that's been good to see. And then Jay's team, I feel like Jay's team is quietly like really, really, really good. Mm-hmm. Did they? Okay, they finished 7th in the first half. That feels like a bit of an underperform almost first half. But I mean, they've been really solid this half, obviously, winning 2/3 of their points every week. So if you're doing that on a regular basis, obviously you're having a good time. So anyways, moving on, this week will be, I think this is going to be another pretty fun match. Bowling Bo McVeigh's team. Mm-hmm. So Bo's another guy from the kind of Russ J group from Wichita. I'm very glad he doesn't actually bowl, because if he actually bowled and bowled tournaments, then I'd never make any money ever again for the rest of my life. So he's kind of really almost Danny, but not, where he just kind of slow wheels the entire lane all the time, and he's really, really good at kind of finagling different ways to knock the pins down. Jim, so you are not alone this week, because Jim Kent is a lefty. So yeah, he'll be up top. I expect it'll be Jim against Jaden, more than likely. This is the lineup they've been rolling with for a few weeks now of Jim, Mike, Kenny, and Bo in that order. Mike is track area, and Kenny kind of fades the track, I feel like. So shouldn't get as ugly this week as last week, especially not having Matt on our team as well.
Yeah, and Jim and I played pretty much on top of each other. He gets around the ball a little bit more, but we have similar speeds, similar rev rates, just kind of plop it third arrow-ish, second to third arrow.
Yeah.
Or at least that's going to be the plan this week. Hi, buddy.
Yeah, and then so we are, where are we on? I forget. Oh, yeah, we're on 11 and 12 tonight, which, pulling up my notes, this pair is one of the really interesting ones on the right side. usually a pretty hooky pair in general, which the fronts have also been hooking a good bit more the past month or so, I feel like, in general.
Mm-hmm.
11 feels like can get a little bit more cliffy, where it's just kind of, a little bit more over cliff, almost a little bit over under going on laterally, versus 12 can just get a little more generally washy. And so I think that'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out tonight. Hopefully, with enough kind of track area traffic on the right side, it'll stabilize a little bit more after game one. But I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Otherwise, I don't know. This doesn't feel like it's going to be unless they have a sub on Bo's team that I don't know about. I really don't see a way that this gets super ugly game 3 unless they start ugly is really the only way I see that happening. So, and then left side should be honestly Jim being there might kind of help you a little bit, give you a little something to throw at game 3 because he's been been going a little more direct than you the last few weeks. I feel like
it'll help settle down the back ends a little bit extra, and that's always good to have a little bit more control.
Yeah, for sure. So we've had kind of a tale of two matches. We hit this pair twice in the first half. Really solid night against Trent's team in week 11, and then Zach's team did the exact same thing to us. Almost a complete mirror match of those matches from a pinfall perspective, and just a couple of points went differently. And kind of a average-ish for Bo's team, I feel like. Decent match results, but pinfall has been right around kind of their team average for the season. So it's just been kind of a middle of the road pair. I mean, realistically, like we've been a little bit on the back foot as a team, and Bo's team has been they're always going to be a pretty tough out, I feel like. And so this is, I don't know, I feel bad saying this every single week, but like no nights off, and this is one of those no nights off type of nights. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that, I mean, we've got quite a bit higher team average, but last time we bowled them, they shot 2,700 at us or whatever.
I believe
700.
Yeah, 27-15 with almost 1,000 game 4.
Yeah, so I mean that's one of the things.
This kind of encapsulates what I think is going to be is like one team's going to shoot. Where both teams are going to kind of. It might not be a heavyweight match in terms of standings this half, but it's going to be a tough match, and I think it'll be. Honestly, I expect it to be a little more even than the averages say it would be on paper, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
So, before we get out of here, because I know you've probably got stuff to do. I know I've got stuff to do, and we've got league in a few hours. What's the bag looking like for you tonight?
Let me. If I get some stuff re-slugged, I might bring the hater.
Okay.
Conspiracy. I need some more games on before it, because the hater's like a ultimate defender that's a little bit longer, a little bit smoother. So
that's the deviate ball, right?
Yeah, because the ultimate defender kind of borders on just a little too strong, and it looked good last week, but it was just a hair stronger than I wanted it to be, and the hater's a little bit longer and it rounds off the back end a little bit more. But probably what's going to happen is I'm just going to go back to throwing the Summit because it just eats that house alive, and so I'm going to figure out the other stuff on Fridays. But it's kind of dumb to get away from it. Just shoot a bunch of 730s every week, and then I'll throw some different stuff, and then haven't been back there again. So that's just one of those things. It's kind of dumb. There might be some other stuff that works, but there's no reason to get away from something that does. So I'm just going to go back to throwing the Summit, especially getting toward the end of things. We need the points, and it just fits. So there's no reason to now. If I throw it and I go 2-0-2-0, then okay, I guess I just suck now. But it's just time to go back to the well and knock the pins down. So
Yeah, no,
I don't
that
really.
makes a lot of
It's
sense.
going to be Summit and a spare ball, and I'm going to bring 3 other balls just for the crap of it.
Summit, a spare ball, and three other balls that don't matter, pretty much.
Yeah, 3 other balls that are just going to be annoying to walk in the building. So
Yeah, pretty much. For myself, I think I've kind of got a new nuclear trio for Royal Crest in particular. It's going to be NV Tour 3.0 and my Theorem. I am going to try something a little different this week. So I've been using my most recently drilled NV Tour actually has more games on it than my older NV Tour that I have, and also has a lot more surface on it. So I grabbed my old NV Tour out of the box, and it's a little bit shinier, and I'm just going to pop some fresh grips in it. Thinking being that I think the fronts have been hooking a little more in general, and if I bring a shinier NV Tour that's got less wear on the cover, it'll maybe kind of bring that ball into play a little bit more. Otherwise, it might be time to kind of think about something else for my benchmark low diff ball for that building specifically. It's kind of my general thought process. And then just kind of having those 3 in my spare ball, like I could probably take those and be fine, but just kind of round it out and bring something a little bit different. I think I'm actually going to bring my Hustle Camo with me tonight. So I just drilled that a week or 2 ago, and looked really good when I threw it on Friday. Obviously a little bit weaker of a benchmarky ball, even less than my Scorpion Low Flare, which is actually kind of nice. So just kind of a different look that I can see how it does, especially knowing that we are going to be on a somewhat hooking pair, and I expect the track to develop quite a bit. That might come into play at some point throughout the night. So, yeah. Otherwise, should be fun.
yeah,
Hopefully I don't back into 750 again. It'd be nice to shoot another honor square at some point, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess, right?
yeah, I don't really feel like I can create different shot shapes on the left side. It just pretty much wherever I go, I'm just kind of trapped in doing something, and I can either do something, or I can either do that something, or just not score. It doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of, because generally when you see several lefties doing something, I mean, it's just like going down to Tulsa. If you put it down how many lefties did we see? The kid that won shot 16-15 for whatever, just pipe it down the 5 board. The guy that went 279, or whatever the crap in the sweeper.
Yeah. And just spin chucking an emerald up 5.
Yeah. And so, and that's ended up what worked for me too. And generally, if you see lefties in tournaments, like, they're all going to be in the same place doing the same thing, because it's just, that's what you have to do.
There's usually one thing that works in a particular building, and if you can't do that one thing, if you can do that one thing, you're in good shape, and if you can't, you're screwed.
Yeah,
both from a zone and a shot shape perspective.
Yeah, so
which I know that was a big part of the learning curve for Eric Moore. I don't know if he's in the chat, but I know when Eric, because he hadn't bowled at Royal Crest ever until this league, and that was kind of
Trevor drafted him at 230 whatever, and then he had several kind of very mediocre weeks, 630s, 620s, kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he got it figured out, now it's just, you can pencil him in again for 730 every week. The thing is that what he's doing different from me is that he's continuing to do what works, and I started trying to do something else.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
It's the Storm and Luke show now, apparently.
So he continued to do what worked, and I stopped doing what worked, and so now I'm sucking, and he's still scoring. And so that's the basic point. And, Trevor hasn't been bowling. He'll have a couple of good games here and there, but Trevor hasn't been really bowling that great. And he'll be doing, throw this ball one week and throw this ball the next week and whatever else. And so that's why I figured out what worked there. And Rob continues to score well. Buddy, you're gonna have to get down. I know. I'm sorry.
But Trevor, I feel like, is kind of chasing his tail a little. And I don't mean this as an insult at all, but I feel like Trevor's chasing his tail a little bit with trying to put together 3 good games in one night.
Yeah,
and I feel like he might a little bit of kind of what I did earlier in the year, early this half, of just kind of, I have to find the perfect ball for this situation instead of. Which I mean, no, I don't mean this as disrespect in any way at all. It's just kind of, I know the left side is different, but
the
easy
left
to kind of get stuck in a loop with that sometimes, I feel like.
Yeah, the left side kind of disappears the last game though, because Rob had 550 going in last week and shot 180 or something. The couple times I've had 550 this year going in the last game, even when I was throwing it good, even when I was throwing the summit,
Yeah.
and changed nothing. And the last time I did it, I told everyone, I was like, well, okay, I'm screwed this game because last time I had 550 going in, I shot 190.
Yeah.
And Jaden's like, oh no, you got it this week. And I'm like, this is
I've seen this movie before.
Yeah, and I shot 180. And so that's just what. And the last time that Trevor had, what do you have, 560 going in, and then he shot 170 or 180 here just a month ago or something.
Yeah.
So it just.
And by the way, Ken, I'm not sure if the cone is amplifying Luke's voice. I think we might need to put a cone on Luke and see what happens.
Yeah.
Science.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? Oh yeah, 279, 278, 158 in week 21. Ouch.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things. It's
that hurts.
You're just not. It doesn't happen where you're just. I mean, on the right side, like what you did last week, that's totally different because the shot disappeared and everybody was fighting the transition. But when you've got the same shot, and when you're throwing it good, you're going to transition that little area a little bit faster than everything else. But having to move a couple boards shouldn't just wreck everything, and that's just what happens on the left side. Once it changes just so much, and you have to change the angle a little bit, then it just disappears.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I don't know. So I'm just going to go back to doing what works, and it's boring and it sucks, and especially with all this new stuff that'd be fun to throw. I've got Friday for throwing new stuff, and whenever I go to tournaments, I'm going to end up getting forced into different stuff at some point too. But it's just, especially
for this and for now, it's just kind of back to the well.
Yeah, for this, I mean that's the yin and the yang is that you got to do what scores, but some leagues get kind of repetitive. It's the same shot in the same building week after week, and just throwing different stuff and changing it up a little bit is the only way to really keep it fresh.
Yeah.
But I don't know why you'd rather throw different bowling balls. Would you rather shoot 730, 720, 740 every week, or shoot 620, 630, 640 throwing different bowling balls?
I don't know, Luke. You tell me.
Yeah. I think
I'm sorry. I'm making myself out now.
Well, no, and see, that's the thing is I'm not really mad about it. I feel like an idiot, but I don't really, because I knew what I was doing the whole time. And I try to get abstract and kind of inside my head and think, well, okay, well, this ball looks good. I'll go on ahead and give this a shot this week. And it just, I'm still just stunned at the left side of the lane, how you just have to do what the lanes are asking for. Yep. You just have, there's no way around it. There's no out bowling it. There's no waiting for the lanes to settle down or whatever. Most of the time, I'll just make a little bit of move this way, or I'll change this or whatever. And, 6 frames in, we'll get a little bit of transition. Everything will settle down and we'll be fine. And that's just not, you find out what you have to do. And then you just do that with that ball the rest of the time. And that's just that.
Yep. Yeah. If I was a betting man, I'd bet that that's something you continue to kind of struggle to adapt to mentally.
Yeah, I will. So, but
hey, at least you're bowling without pain, so that's a plus.
Yeah, and so and really just going back to it. I mean, it's I've got other times to throw other bowling balls, and it does kind of reset you every once in a while, because I think that either direction you go, you can get in kind of a rut. So if I just go the one direction and throw what scores, then I have to go somewhere else and do something else. I'm going to be screwed because I'm not used to, like, all I do is just stand here and throw at third arrow every single week in the same building on the same shot. And so when I have to do something different, it's going to feel weird. But I would almost rather take the odd bad set at a tournament than, okay, well, I just averaged 205 for like the last 8 weeks, doing different stuff, so I can shoot 680 instead of 630 at a tournament somewhere where it doesn't matter.
Oopsies.
So anyway.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. So, yeah, we do need to get going. It went a few minutes over our target time, but thank you all for hanging out, and maybe we'll have a cone on Luke next week and see how that affects his audio.
Yeah, I might have
Thanks,
to borrow the phone and see
yeah.
what happens.
Thanks for the idea, Ken. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah. Good times. Till next time.